Some time ago, a guy that lives in a state that looks like a giant oven mitt decided to start his own podcast. He's cooler than you. His favorite pizza topping is pineapple because he knows it makes you angry. This is CuJo's Corner. Alright, hello everyone. Got a question for you all before we get started. Actually, I got a couple questions. The first question is, how are you all doing? You all doing okay? I hope so. The second question is, what do you guys think of the opening? I did it myself. Kind of worked on it for some time now. I said I'd be debuting an opening, and I'd like to know what you guys think about it. Actually, I give you guys a little funny story. And I swear, this is not the embarrassing story. I will save that for the end of the show, just like always. I had actually, excuse me, I had actually recorded the opening last week, but I accidentally overwrote the file when I saved the audio for the podcast itself, so I had to re-record it for this show. But it kind of felt necessary for it, because this is the 20th segment of CuJo's Corner. Kind of feels a little special, well, it does to me, for anybody who's listening out there, and I do appreciate that. I'm just going to ask my first question again before we get started. How are you all doing today? You doing okay? If you guys are, if you live in the same state as me, we're about to get pelted with a bunch of snow. So yeah, that's gonna be fun to put up with. Anyway, guys, I got a great show for you guys today. Got another great weekend of football to talk about. We have the stage. It is set. The Super Bowl. Let me retry that. The stage is set. We have our Super Bowl matchup. We'll get into that. Might briefly talk a little bit of Josh McDaniels going to the Raiders. To be honest, guys, I don't really have too much to say about it. So I guess maybe I can open up with that one. Mostly because I don't, honest to God, I don't have a lot to say about that. But most of this is gonna be a very football heavy episode today. Actually, most of my podcasts are very football heavy, if we're being honest here. So yeah, and I also wanted to slip in a little topic, just something that's been on my mind. Talking about more football, defensive games in particular. We'll get to it, and then as always, I'm gonna wrap this up with an embarrassing story from my life. This one is actually fairly recent, the embarrassing story for today. And when I say recent, I literally mean like in the past couple of weeks recent. So, yeah, we'll get to that. Anyway, guys, without further ado, I know I've been talking for a little over 3 minutes now. Anyway, guys, without further ado, let's get started. So Tom Brady announced his retirement from the NFL after 22 seasons. I'm not gonna go over. Look, guys, I'm not gonna give you the story on it or anything. It was the announcement came via Instagram. Tom posted a long, heartfelt, typed out thank you message to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to his personal trainers, to his agent, his family, not to the Patriots. Although he did respond to Robert Kraft on Instagram, and had basically thanked him for all the years in New England, taking a chance on him, that kind of stuff. So this announcement came after just all the crazy crap that happened over the weekend. This actually was initially reported on Saturday, from Adam Schefter, and it was Schefter and another ESPN guy, um, reporter. Excuse me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm like thinking about, I got so much to say about this, and it's just like clouding me at once, kind of. So I'm just trying to get my thoughts together here. Look, and for what it's worth, I don't want to stir the pot or anything. Look, I'm a longtime Pats fan, and yeah, I did find it a little weird initially when he didn't thank the Patriots in his initial statement, but I guess I just didn't really think anything of it. Um, he did go and responded to Robert Kraft on Instagram, so and I think he's going to go into the Hall of Fame. Everyone's going to remember him for his time in New England. Look, I think I'm just going to say it. Like, he really didn't need to thank the Patriots. Like, it would have been nice that it would have been nice if he did. And, okay, I guess I shouldn't say he doesn't need to, but I'm not going to act like there's something there. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not going to stir the pot. If he stays involved with the game, which I firmly believe he will, in some way, shape, or form, like I said, people are going to remember him as a Patriot. He's probably going to, lean more towards the Pats. He spent too much time, literally his entire career, save for the last 2 years, were in New England. I really have no doubt that he is going to thank New England, formally or whatever, in some way, shape, or form. I'm not worried about it, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to stir the pot or anything. I'm not going to make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm just not going to make a big deal out of it. It is what it is. Maybe there's something there, maybe there isn't. I don't know. So I guess when the news first broke, I wasn't quite sure what I was gonna say. All I knew was I wanted to hop on and talk about it. Now, luckily, I was able to slip this one into the podcast before I uploaded the podcast for the week. And you guys, anybody who has watched my videos or anybody who knows me knows I am a huge Tom Brady fan. I love Brady. Guys, one of my idols. Yeah, actually, I think he was probably my first idol growing up. And I'll get more into that in just a minute. As far as the video itself goes, well, actually, video, podcast itself goes, I wasn't really sure what I was going to talk about when it came to Brady. I mean, I could sit here, roll over his accomplishments, his legacy, his stats, and I could tell you, like, I think he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. All right. But look, guys, that's like saying water is wet. Like, we know. Brady getting into the Hall of Fame is... It's obviously going to happen. There's just no way it doesn't. And you guys don't need to sit here and listen to me list off all of his accomplishments, all of his numbers. I just feel like that'd get boring, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to bore you guys. I'd rather be, I want to be entertaining. I want to entertain you. That sounded weird. I think I botched when I entertained. Whatever. Anyway. So, I guess, like, I just wasn't quite sure what I was gonna do. What I was gonna say. I mean, um, but then about halfway through that thought process, it hit me. I don't really think I've told you guys a whole lot of, like, growing up, like a little bit about myself, and why Brady, in essence, was and still is one of my idols. Um, so obviously, if you guys have seen my film, 13 Years of Patriot, I posted it on my channel, my short film. You guys would know I became a Pats fan when they beat the Rams in Super Bowl 36. Um, I remember the season leading that season before the Super Bowl itself, watching the Pats and really just, I don't know what it was. I just really loved watching what they were doing. And um, when they played they made it to the playoffs. They went 11-5 that year. They made it to the playoffs. My dad and we sat down and watched like I said, what was now the infamous Tuck Rule game. And I wow, that was quite the game to watch. The infamous Tuck Rule game that essentially started a dynasty. You know what? Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. It's all about capitalizing on those opportunities. I've kind of come to learn that through that. um, then they played Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship, and the famous one there was Pittsburgh had put a bunch of suitcases and bags at the entrance page. I think it was like the Pats locker room or where they came out to enter the field. They put a bunch of packed suitcases and like bags and whatnot. Um, Basically telling them like, you ought to just pack your bags and go because we got this. And I think Brady actually got injured in that game. He got knocked out of the game. Bledsoe actually came in and finished the game. I don't remember off the top of my head how he did, but um, I just remember being a kid and leading up to that Super Bowl, Patriots and the Rams. I remember thinking, like, dude, Pats are probably going to get their asses kicked. I mean, the Rams are so much better. They're such a better team, way better team. They put up like 50 points a game. The greatest show on turf. Like, that's what they were. That was those Rams. Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce. Oh, God. I think Torrey Holt was also on that team, I believe. So, like, yeah, like, yeah. um, so it was quite the uphill battle. But behind Brady, behind Belichick, New England, they made it happen. They played a great game. They won. They showed toughness. They showed resilience. I mean, that was a hell of a game. And to be honest, guys, it's probably one of the best moments of my life. And I guess for me, that's kind of where it all started. And as far as like my time being a Pats fan, but not just that. Like, little did I know it, I watched a football game and I gained an idol. From that day forth, Tom Brady showed me in that game that it doesn't matter what the odds are. You got to be like Han Solo. Never tell me the odds. Just do it. Ignore the noise. obviously I couldn't have seen what Brady's career would turn into coming. Hell, if you had told me he was going to play 22 years and win 6 more Super Bowls on top of the one, I would have thought you were crazy. But yeah, we literally got to watch it happen. And to this day, Tom Brady, I still consider him one of my idols. Um, you know, growing up, I wasn't the most confident kid in the world. I had a bit of a low self-esteem, a bit of a low image of myself, at least, in my own head. I wasn't a very confident kid. Tom Brady kind of would, like, give me the, like, kind of give me the confidence, so to speak, because in that Super Bowl, and just through the years and years, I mean, I'm not just talking about that one Super Bowl at this point. I mean, through the years and years and years, I've watched him. I watched him persevere, ignore the noise, ignore the haters, just didn't give a damn what anyone was saying about him, didn't give a damn what anyone thought of him. He just did his thing, and he kind of smiled and flipped you off as he did it. And I loved it. There was always something about that I always loved. And when I was younger, I felt like I was never good at that. I was never confident enough. I was never confident with what I was doing with my life. I'm a bit of a comic book nerd. I love comic books. I'm into video games. I love Transformers. I love Spider-Man. I love. I've been. Mortal Kombat's another one. I've been playing the 2016 Ratchet and Clank for the PS4. It's a fun game. I like fun, nerdy stuff, and I got picked on for being into that kind of stuff. Hell, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! The same year I watched the Pats win their first Super Bowl. I was 9 years old, so I was a nerdy kid, and I got picked on for it. And some days it would make me kind of, like, why do people pick on me for the stuff I'm interested in? Like, why does it bother them? Who cares what I'm into? I'm not hurting them. That's kind of how I felt. I was a kid, so obviously I didn't get the psychology of all of it, of bullying and whatever. I'm not here to give you a sob story or a little, history lesson, psychology lesson, whatever. Um, it was always like the idea would pop in my head, like, what would Tom Brady do? I know that sounds silly, but really, like, what would Brady do? And the answer was always the same. He'd do his thing, and he wouldn't give a fuck if you liked him for it or not. So, like, loving all the stuff that I did, being a bit of a nerd, I always kind of dreamed of being like a comic book artist, or like a filmmaker, cartoonist. Like, I've always loved, like, animation and animated films, cartoons. I love that kind of stuff. I always wanted to get into that stuff, and like I said, I got picked on, and there were days where it kind of made me feel like I didn't, like, what I was into was like, oh, is this really something I should get into, because, like, it's stupid and it's not useful and it doesn't serve anything in the world. But I kind of came to the conclusion, like, who cares? Who cares? If it makes you happy, then do it. If you're not hurting anybody, then do it. Go for it. Ignore the noise. Persevere. And I guess, in a weird way, I have Tom Brady to thank for kind of allowing me to kind of, like, put a face and a name to somebody who's been in a situation where it's like, hey, they're being made fun of for doing what they do best. Now, obviously, I was a kid, and I didn't quite get, like, well, it's a bit of a different comparison. People hate Brady because he beats their favorite teams. I was being picked on for the stuff I was interested in because other kids were just bullies, and like I said, that's a whole different topic entirely. But you get it. The principle is still the same. I feel like we all have someone that we idolize. Somebody outside of our own family, like we idolize them. We look up to them. Whether it's like a fictional hero, a fictional superhero, or a fictional character in general, or a real person. I mean, look, I've certainly, I kind of had a mix, As I mentioned, I love animated characters. I love animated films and animated movies and just cartoons in general. I'm not going to waste your guys' time, get into that whole thing. And I love sports. I was always into both of those stuff. Both of that stuff. Both of those stuff. Guys, I can't English right now. I has the dumb. But I guess the last thing I'll say before moving on to the next segment is becoming a Pats fan, without a doubt, has easily been one of the best decisions in my life. I have Brady and Belichick to thank for that. So, I guess the last thing I'll say is thank you, Tom. Thank you for giving a 9-year-old boy in Michigan an idol for life. Enjoy retirement, my man. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the AFC Championship between Cincinnati and Kansas City. This was Kansas City's fourth AFC Championship appearance, which is a record. That's impressive. However, it didn't end the way that they were hoping, or at least their fans. Let's be honest. Burrow, Chase, Mixon, and the Bengals defense, they stepped up in this game. I want to address the elephant in the room. The Chiefs were up 21-3 in this game, and they blew it. 18-point lead, biggest blown lead, tied for the biggest blown lead in conference history. The other team, unfortunately for me, I'm a lot of people, it's probably a good thing. It's actually the Pats that they're tied with that record now. If you guys remember, I believe it was Peyton Manning's first Super Bowl, actually, that he went to and won. It was Indy and Chicago Super Bowl. Which one was that? 41. No, 41. No, Super Bowl 41. Now I remember off the top of my head. I'm actually kind of impressed. I still remember that. But anyway, yeah, 18-point lead. Chiefs blew it. This Bengals team is hot, guys. Just hot. They look insane. I cannot say enough good things about Cincinnati Bengals. I know I didn't do any picks or anything. I didn't really talk much about the as far as like the games leading up to. I didn't really talk much playoff football, and I want to apologize both to myself and to you guys. Would have been so fun to talk more about the playoffs, but what can you do? So I gotta be honest, guys. I didn't think Cincinnati would get past Tennessee. I didn't. I thought Derrick Henry coming back. Tennessee was off a bye, number 1 seed in the AFC. Granted, they didn't look like a strong number 1, but it was. Look, they looked like a solid team. Derrick Henry coming back. I didn't think Cincinnati would beat Tennessee, but they did. And then they went and beat Kansas City, and oh my God, I'm so I just got to say, guys, I'm so beyond happy that Cincinnati beat Kansas City specifically in overtime when Kansas City won the coin toss. I was I was getting a little anxious. I was like, "Oh great, here we go. It's going to be another one of those games. Kansas City is going to drive the ball, score a touchdown. Then they're gonna, and then everyone's gonna be like, they gotta change the overtime rules. Gotta change the overtime rules. I gotta, listen to this crap again, guys. Look, I'm sorry if you guys think they should. I don't mean to shit on you or anything. I just don't want them to. I was so glad to see Cincinnati, stop Kansas City from hitting the end zone or hell, even making a field goal. They ended up picking off Pat Mahomes, taking the ball back, and McPherson popped a game-winning field goal. I think it's fair to say that this Cincinnati team is tough. And they did exactly what you should do in overtime. They stopped the team from scoring a touchdown. They gave themselves the opportunity to get that game winner. That's why I don't think the rules should be changed. I like the anxiety. I like the that's a weird thing to say. I like the anxiety. I like the anxiety during football games. I love being on the edge. I love being feeling like I'm on the edge of my seat, like I'm having an adrenaline rush. I love it. I love the sudden death element that comes with overtime. And I was just happy to see Cincinnati, in essence, kind of put that conversation to bed, if you ask me. I think. But who knows? Though, probably will come another game where a team scores a touchdown on the opening drive of overtime, and then everyone starts saying it again. They should change the overtime rules. It won't be me. I'm not going to say that. I like the overtime rules as they are, and I just got to say thank you, Cincinnati, for beating Kansas City the way you did, just for that. At least in that way. No, in all seriousness, guys, not to be a hater, I really didn't want to see Kansas City in another Super Bowl. And I know that's ironic coming from a Pats fan, but I don't care. I just don't care. You know what? I'm going to be a hypocrite. Screw it. I just did not want to see the Chiefs in another Super Bowl. Bite me. So, yeah, I guess the last thing I'm gonna say about the game is it was entertaining as hell. Anytime the Chiefs, I'll give the Chiefs this. Anytime they're playing a game with high stakes, I think it's fair to say it's gonna be a fun game to watch. It's definitely gonna be, excuse me, Jesus. It's definitely gonna be a game that you should tune into. Because they know how to put on a show. They really do. But yeah, Cincinnati's a tough team. I think they're good to go, and yeah, they're dialed in. It's gonna be fun to see what they can do in the Super Bowl. Over on the flip side, let's move on to the next topic. The NFC Championship. Another exciting game, if you ask me. Maybe not the most exciting in terms of scoring, but, I still thought it was a pretty decent game. The LA Rams beat the San Francisco 49ers to advance to the Super Bowl. That's it. That's all. No, obviously, there's a lot to talk about here. Matt Stafford is going to be playing in a Super Bowl, so that's kind of interesting. I'll get to that a little bit, just a second. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that, though I normally say that, and then I end up going on a tangent, so we'll see. But I'll talk about Matt Stafford in a second. So going into this game, I kind of thought San Francisco I gotta be honest, guys. I thought San Francisco was actually gonna win this one. I thought they were tough. They were resilient, much like Cincinnati in that regard. A plucky team that kind of came into the playoffs, just kind of, nobody had them going anywhere this far at the beginning of the year, but here they are. I thought, and given that I think it was like San Francisco had beaten LA their last like 6 meetings or something, it was easy to assume that, yeah, like I think San Francisco's probably going to win this game. But lo and behold, they didn't. They were up 17-7 in the fourth quarter, and Matt Stafford led the comeback. The LA Rams, they came back, they won, and like I said, they're going to the Super Bowl. This is going to be, an interesting matchup to say the least. To be honest, guys, I don't really have a whole lot else to say about the NFC Championship. I mean, wasn't the greatest game. I did say it was exciting. I thought it was fun, but that's only because I like football. So, any football is fun to me. But, yeah, I mean, was Championship Sunday anywhere near as good as Divisional Sunday the weekend before? Oh, no, absolutely not. But we kind of got spoiled. The AFC Championship was definitely a good one, to say the least. And yeah, for the most part, this game had some pretty good moments. It's always exciting to watch a game in which a team has to come back and win, unless your team is the one that's, suffering at the hands of the comeback, in which case, oh well, sucks to be your team. Uh, so, listen, the last thing I'll say about this is Rams, they were down 17-7. Stafford kind of proved, I think he proved a lot of people wrong by leading the comeback. But that leads me to another topic entirely. And I'll get to that in just a second. I do want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. So yeah, last thing I'll say is Rams won. That's it. Got really nothing else to say. I know, very deep and insightful. But anyway, so stage is set. Cincinnati, LA, Super Bowl. And it's going to be in LA. So that's interesting. For the second year in a row, the Super Bowl will be in the hometown of one of the teams playing, one of the participants. Second year in a row that's happened. It's kind of funny because before last year that had never happened before. Had some close calls. Minnesota, I believe, almost hosted the Super Bowl and played in one the same year. It was actually, I think it was the year, yeah, it was the year Philly beat New England in Super Bowl 52. Yeah, 52. Minnesota was in the NFC Championship, and the Super Bowl was in Minnesota. So, yeah, really interesting how how this has been shaken up over the past few years. But nonetheless, game's going to be in L.A. It's the Rams and the Bengals. Sean McVay and company, for the most part. Well, Sean McVay has been there before. I believe Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. There's a number of guys that were there when they lost to the Pats. But obviously the new kid on the block is Matt Stafford. Well, in a manner of speaking, I guess you would actually, that would be better saved for Joe Burrow, the new kid on the block. This is interesting. So on one side you have the Rams. For the most part, guys that have been there. They opened up as favorites. I believe they're like 4-point favorites. So yeah, it's easy to see why the Rams are favored in this game. On paper, they do look like a better team. However, on the flip side, Cincinnati. I said it before. I'll say it again. They're plucky. They made it this far. I don't think anyone had them making it to this point. Whereas if you're the Rams, you were kind of expected to get to this point. Or, I guess maybe not so much expected so much as it was like if the Rams didn't make the Super Bowl, it'd be a failure. However, Bengals, I don't think anybody had them making it to this point. Certainly not me. I didn't think they would be playing in a Super Bowl with a second-year quarterback out of LSU who is coming off of a torn ACL. Cincinnati had one of the worst offensive lines I think, yeah, they might have been, like, statistically the worst offensive line in the league. Burrow got sacked like 9 times in the AFC Championship, and they still made it to this point. Cincinnati is tough. Cincinnati is a team that makes a lot of mistakes. It's easy to see why they're the underdog. It's easy to see why they, why a lot of, I don't know. I haven't, obviously it's only been a day, so I don't know what the consensus is on who everyone's picking as far as who's going to win goes. This one is a little tough. Now, I guess if I were... Look, I'll give it to you guys like this. If I were a betting man, I would probably take... I mean, I guess it's tough to say betting. I guess if if I had to pick the winner, like who do I think is going to win? Who am I putting money on? If I'm betting on one or the other, I probably would bet on the Rams. I think they got the veterans. They got guys that have been there. They don't make as much mistakes. They look like a better team overall, a better coach team, more put together. But if that's just the thing, it's hard for me to gauge Cincinnati because they make a lot of mistakes, yet they've made it to this point. They persevere, they're plucky, they're tough, they're resilient, and I'll tell you what, if the Rams jump out ahead to like a 14, 21 point lead in this game, I would not be like sitting on that and just being like, haha, we could take our foot off the gas, because this Bengals team, if it's one thing they know how to do, it's come from behind. That's why this is tough for me to really say, like, oh, I think the Rams are going to win. Now, I got to be honest, guys, this is one of those situations where my brain and my heart really aren't in the same place. Now, what do I mean by that? My brain says Rams, but my heart says Bengals. I kind of want Cincinnati to win this game. I'm not going to lie. Like, look, no shot to Matt Stafford. I'll get to him in just a second. I know I kind of said I'd talk about him, and I will. I got something interesting to talk about as far as that goes. But as far as who I want to win the Super Bowl goes, I'm not going to lie, guys. I want Cincinnati. This is their third Super Bowl as a franchise. They've never won one in their history. I just think it'd be kind of cool to see a team that's never won it finally win one. It could be the beginning of something special. I mean, it could be that anyway. You know, you're playing in the Super Bowl. That's a big deal. Let's not undermine that. And I look, I look at the Rams, and I see like somewhat of a situation similar to the Rams against the Patriots. Now, the biggest difference being back in those days, you really did have a situation where it was Sean McVay. It was a young team with stars in their eyes, and they were happy to be there. And look, not that they didn't show up and play. They wanted it, clearly. And I mean, that game came down to like one drive. I mean, I thought it was a great game. I really did. I don't know why everybody hates on it, but I'll get to that. I'll get to that soon. I'll talk more about that later. I see a matchup here similar to that Patriots-Rams matchup on paper, I guess, though there's a lot of variables here. I don't think McVay is Belichick. That's the first thing. And I also don't think that the Rams, the Patriots, they're not a team that's there all the time, but I think, like I said, when you look at the matchup on paper, Cincinnati is not a team that, like I said, they make a lot of mistakes. They have one of the worst offensive lines. Burrow got sacked 9 times in the AFC Championship. And they still won. That's just the thing about Cincinnati that kind of scares the hell out of me the most, is no matter how many mistakes this team makes, Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, these guys, they all find a way to make it happen. And I'm going to be honest, while I think the Rams are going to win, I hope I'm wrong. I'd rather see the Bengals. I want the Bengals to win this game. So yeah, I think I'm going to pick the Bengals. So, with all that said, I'm going to throw it over to you guys. Throw your picks in the comment section below. Who do you guys have winning the Super Bowl? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you want to win? Whatever you feel like commenting, go ahead and throw it in the comment section below. I'm going to go ahead and move on to a topic I actually didn't think I'd be talking about, but I do have a lot to say about it, and it's this. Matt Stafford is in a pretty unique position right now. So something we hear a lot about is about a player's legacy. Like, what's their legacy? What are they going to be known for? And we've seen a lot of people, a lot of athletes over the years, a lot of coaches break narratives, create new legacies. Matt Stafford, I can think of no other player or coach that's in a position like Matt Stafford. Because no matter what happens on Sunday, no matter who wins, Matt Stafford is going to have whatever happens on Sunday, in my opinion, could be a huge determining factor in what Matt Stafford's legacy as an NFL quarterback becomes. Now let me explain. So, Matt Stafford is a bit of an interesting topic of discussion. I mean, where I live, Michigan, there was a lot of people that would outright blame him for pretty much everything with the Lions. Like, oh, the Lions are crap and it's his fault. Ugh. And then there's people who would overly defend the guy. No matter what happened, it was never Matt Stafford's fault. And then there's guys like me. They're always in between. It's like, you know what? Yeah, there's some truth to what the defenders say when they say that it's not always his fault. And there's a little truth to what the haters say when they say sometimes it is. Because I think it's kind of a package deal when it comes to Matt Stafford and the Lions. Here's the thing. Matt Stafford is about to carve a new legacy. no matter what happens. Now, what is that legacy? I keep talking about this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just building up. I'm trying to build for dramatic effect. I'd appreciate if you guys comment on that. um, anyway, so let's say the Rams lose on Sunday. Not this Sunday, on the 13th. Next Sunday. Let's say the Rams lose the Super Bowl to the Bengals. Matt Stafford's legacy essentially becomes, at least for the moment, he's no better than Jared Goff. His legacy. His legacy would be that of Jared Goff. Now think about it. Led the Rams and Sean McVay to a Super Bowl, helped them get there, and they lose. Now let's say like they lose a tight one like they did against New England a few years back. But nonetheless, if they lose, that is going to be, in my opinion, the current legacy that Matt Stafford. That's the perfect comparison right there. It'd be Jared Goff. A bit ironic, but it'd be true. Now, let's say the Rams win. I think it's fair to say that Matt Stafford's legacy is the same as Aaron Rodgers. Just think about it like this. If the Rams win on Sunday, both quarterbacks will have an NFC Championship, and both quarterbacks will have one Super Bowl appearance and one ring each. Now, I know you could say, but Rodgers has been in the playoffs more, and Rodgers is he's been in the NFC Championship more. Yeah, one could say that he played in a division where he preyed upon a pretty weak division. I mean, the Lions were no competition for the Packers ever. And I can't remember the last time the Vikings or the Bears ever were. And again, it's not to take anything away from Rodgers' talent. Guys, this is not about stats. This is about legacy. And if Matt Stafford and the Rams win the Super Bowl, I do think it's fair to say that his legacy is the same as Aaron Rodgers. They're two guys from the NFC North who guided teams to the Super Bowl and won. However, the Rams lose, then he's basically Jared Goff. He led a good Rams team and couldn't win the big one. Now, I'm not going to get into the semantics of it, like, but if Matt Stafford, let's say the Rams lose and they only lose by like 3, and it's like a really high scoring game, like it ends up 33-30, Bengals win. That's not the point. It's not going to matter. At the end of the day, Matt Stafford's legacy would be, you got them to the Super Bowl, but you still lost. You were no different than Jared Goff. By the same token, if they only end up beating the Bengals by 3, you could throw the semantics and say like, but Rodgers has been to more championships. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Rodgers has not touched the Super Bowl since 2010. 2011. Am I right? It was Super Bowl, I want to say 45. Yes, 45. It was Super Bowl 45. Dutch is barking right on schedule. If you guys can hear it, my dog is barking in the background. Kind of seems to be a staple for this podcast. Rodgers hasn't been to the Super Bowl in 10 years. So, yeah, it's been a while. But enough from me. I want to know what you guys think. I know it might sound like a bit of a hot take. I know I said Matt Stafford is in a pretty unique position. But I guess I'll ask a few questions on this. First and foremost, do you agree with my analysis about Matt Stafford? Do you agree that he's in a really unique spot where one way or another his legacy is going to change? His legacy as an NFL quarterback is going to change. I do think it's a fair conversation to have. I want to know what you guys think. Also, do you think the comparisons that I made are fair? Let's kind of dive into the legacy question a bit. Do you think those comparisons were fair? If he wins, do you think it's fair to compare him to Aaron Rodgers? If he loses, do you think it's more fair to compare him to Jared Goff? Whatever you guys think in the comment section, throw it down below. I worded that differently. Kind of threw my brain off for a bit. Um, so anyway, guys, that was kind of a spur of the moment topic that I literally just came up with off the top of my head. So that's kind of why it sounded a little spacey, but I just kind of thought it was an interesting topic. And to be honest with you, I heard them talking about it on 97.1 this morning. So it kind of just gave me something to think about. So yeah, whatever your thoughts are on that, feel free to throw them in the comment section below. And we're going to move on to the next topic, which is it's just something that's been on my mind for a little bit of time now. Uh, so these past couple of weekends of football have been probably some of the best weekends of football that I, as a fan, have personally ever seen. And I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that. It's been some great playoff football. And it's kind of had me thinking. Super Bowl 53, it was the Rams and the Patriots. Now, maybe I was thinking about this one because I was thinking about, I was thinking about, I guess I was just thinking about the Rams in the Super Bowl. This was at work earlier, for the record. And I've heard people talk about that Super Bowl, and it's pretty universal. Everybody seems to be of the opinion that this was a boring Super Bowl. It's like, oh, there was no touchdowns until like the last drive of the game. Everybody thought it was boring. It just kind of seems to be the universal consensus. A lot of people hated this game. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I think you're wrong, because look, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to have it. But it kind of got me thinking. Because it's not just Super Bowl 53 that I've heard this opinion about. I've heard this opinion about games where it's basically like a chess match. In other words, a defensive battle. A game where it's coming down to both coaches and their play calling, and it's just coming down to both sides trying to wear one another down and find a flaw in one defensive scheme or the other. But I wanted to focus a little bit of the conversation mostly on Super Bowl 53 because it's the one that I just kind of sticks in my head most, at least without doing like too much, like going off a recency bias kind of thing. And a game that's just, for the most part, what I can remember most of. Yeah, a lot of people did not like that game, and a lot of people in general just don't like super defensive heavy football games. I just kind of wanted to float the question, why is that? I guess for me as a fan, I've always enjoyed those games. I love it when both offenses just cannot figure out the defense. And for the record, I'm not talking about a game where mistakes are being made, and by mistakes I mean like sloppy football or anything, like guys missing blocks, falling all over the place, just ugly all around. I'm talking like it looks like both coaches, the play calling, it just looks like a battle of wits almost. Like who's gonna outsmart the other? Like a literal chess match with 200 to 300-pound men on the field smacking the living dog shit out of each other. Um, I've always, myself personally, as a football fan, I've always just enjoyed those strong defensive matchups more. When you look like you're watching two bulls just going at each other, locking the horns, and neither of them are giving in or giving up until eventually one just slips or even makes a mistake and the other one just capitalizes on it. I love those kind of games. I really do. Um, honestly, I've watched the highlights to Super Bowl 53, not recently, but, a few times. I love it every time. Now, maybe that's because I'm a Pats fan and I love it when I look back and see my team win. Um, but yeah, look, I gotta believe even if my team wasn't in the Super Bowl, or I don't know if I want to say like they lost. I don't know how I would have felt if they had lost. I probably wouldn't like to see it. Um, though to be fair, the Pats lost Super Bowl 52. I'm not gun shy about watching those highlights. So um, I guess for me, I'm just different from most football fans. I know a lot of football fans. They like their scoring. They like their exciting play. And look, I do too. If you guys remember, I was a Justin Fields guy in the draft. I like the scrambling quarterback with a decent arm, can make plays happen with both his arm and his feet. Um, but even I have to appreciate classic football, which at the end of the day is just kind of a simple run the ball, strong defense, don't give up a lot of points. Um, that's really all I had to say about this. It wasn't really anything serious. It's just kind of a little personal little football question I just felt like floating. Um, yeah. So yeah, if you guys have anything to add to that, I want to know. What do you think of super defensive games? Are you like me? Do you love them, or do you hate them? Do you think they're boring? There's not enough scoring. that kind of rhymed. That did rhyme. But anyway, whatever your thoughts are on this topic, much like everything we've talked about today, go ahead and throw it in the comment section below. With all that said, we're going to move on to the final topic of the night, which is the embarrassing story. Now, I made mention of this one at the beginning of the podcast. I think I had said like something like this. This happened to me like a couple of weeks ago. Um, and I mean, if we're being honest here, I don't know how embarrassing this is. It's just kind of something I look back on, at least as of late. It is fairly recent, and I kind of just bust out laughing. Honestly, guys, it's just one of those stories to me. It's funny. You may not think it's quite as embarrassing. Hell, you might find it relatable. Actually, I think a lot of you will. If any of you have ever driven a transit van, you certainly will. So anyway, guys, for those of you that don't know, I work at a print shop. It's called Wheelhouse Graphics. And occasionally I have to drive to go either pick up some things or drop off some things. So this was one of those days I had to go for a pickup somewhere, and I had to stop and put gas in the tank. So um, I had never actually had put gas in a transit van ever. In fact, I've barely ever driven one. I think before I had this job, I'd never driven a transit van. So, of course, I had no idea where the nozzle even was, where to even begin. Nozzle, I'm sorry, I meant the valve or whatever I'm talking about. Where to put gas in the van. All I knew is the indicator when I was pulling up into the gas station, the arrow pointed on the left, meaning the driver's side is where the gas nozzle was. So I parked next to a pump, and I'm standing there. I'm kind of looking around. It's like, God, it felt like minus 10 degrees outside, something like that. It was cold, very cold. Um, I'm I'm standing there. I'm trying to figure out how exactly I'm gonna pull out of the gas station once I'm done, and um, on top of that, I'm freezing my ass off. I can't figure out where the gas valve is. To put the nozzle in and start like pumping gas. I'm pretty sure I'm getting those terms right. I don't know cars very well, guys. If I sound like I'm talking out my ass here, feel free to make fun of me in the comment section below. But anyway, um, so yeah, I'm like running around in circles trying to find the hatch to open up and put the gas pump in to start pumping gas. And I just felt like a moron. I'm like, dude, how can I not find where to put the gas? And even more stupid of me, I didn't even think to ask. Because, like I said, I had never put gas in one of these things before. So I'm running around in like minus 10 degree weather like a moron. And I'm like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. They're going to think I'm screwing around. Oh my god. Till eventually I gave up. I pulled out my phone and I just Googled it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, dude, I got to use Google how to figure out how to put gas in a transit van. Wow. Okay. And ironically enough, I was telling my coworkers about this, and that's when I thought, hey, this would make a neat story on the podcast. So all comes full circle. But no, I ended up filling the gas. Drive went well. I did my pickups. I will say this: driving a transit van in like really bad weather, like we're about to have, a lot of snow. I think we have like a winter storm warning heading our way. So yeah, thankfully I've never had to drive in that kind of weather. From what I gather, not a very good vehicle to drive in the winter. So yeah, but um, like I said, I filled the tank. I found where the nozzle is, and now I know for next time. So, yeah, I know that one was kind of short and not quite as embarrassing as one might think. But nonetheless, um, that's what I got for you guys. Is it a story you guys can relate to? If so, throw it in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Um, But until then, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of CuJo's Corner. Uh, be sure to leave your feedback on the show. Tell me how I'm doing so far in the comment section below, and feel free to be as honest as you'd like. Any constructive criticism is welcome. Keyword there being constructive criticism is welcome. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and or watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit that notification icon so that you never miss when I upload. And until next time, I'm Justin Crumley with the CuJo Productions channel saying, stay awesome.